What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Me TV Reviews. I am your host, Mo, and tonight, y'all, we're going to be discussing The Traitors. This is season 3, episodes 3 and 4. Now, y'all know these episodes are usually pretty short because it's not really too much to talk about as far as like what happens during the episode. It's just yeah, this is just like a quick recap, y'all. So, without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the synopsis real quick, and then we're gonna get right into the episode. So, the title for this one is Nail in the Coffin. The synopsis for this one is the traitors must meet outside of their tower to commit their next murder in plain sight. All right, y'all. These 2 episodes, if the rest of the season goes like these 2 episodes, y'all, we're going to have a good season. But let's go ahead and get into it because I don't know how this is going to work out. So we begin the episode where we left off with the last one, and that's mixed reviews for having Boston Rob become the newest addition to the Traitors. Now, Carolyn still feels like she's working alone because nobody's ever listening to her. Okay, she's like the person, the little baby that's always getting ignored. Ain't nobody paying attention to her. She always has these ideas, but they're like, yeah, but let's do something else. And Danielle is kind of okay with having Boston Rob in the group because it's like one of those things where it's better to work with the devil than having him work against you type of situation. Okay, you don't want to get on Boston Rob's bad side because you know once you get there he gonna cross you real bad. And Boston Rob isn't too all pleased with his fellow traitors because they're complete opposites. Like, what type of team is this? That's what he said. So they discuss who the shields were given to in the previous mission. And it's good that they have this knowledge because you don't want to waste a kill, right? So Bob the Queen suggests continuing with the chaos and mayhem by either getting rid of Dolores or Will. But everybody else says that that'll be doing way too much. So then they suggested Tom to make Rochelle look suspicious because apparently, they got some bad blood between them, with Rochelle being his ex's bestie and all. And so Carolyn suggested Brittany, but of course that would make Danielle look bad. So that's definitely a no-go. We're not doing that. So it's gonna be between Tom, Ian, and Dolores. Okay. Now, as they're having this conversation, well, actually, not as they're having this conversation, the following morning, Rob, Wes, and Derek are showing up to breakfast. They're the first ones there, and so they make a vow to try to hang in this game together for as long as they can. And of course, Wes has a nickname for them, which is the Caged Boys. Like I said, they want to work together until they can't. And Derek has reservations because he believes that at least one of them is a traitor. You're spot on, Derek. You're spot on. So the one that was eliminated from the previous night, y'all, was Ian. And Robin is pissed because she feels like the housewives are being hunted. Everyone is hella confused as to why anybody would eliminate her when she clearly wasn't a threat to anybody. But they chose to sow more oats of chaos, so here we are, right? I will say that they could have done Ian's murder sit down at least one more time, y'all, because her eyes, they weren't. Now they know they saw that footage and they could have been like, hey girl, we trying to make you look your best. Can you please just run that back for us one more time? Yeah, no. But I guess, okay. So after breakfast, everybody splits up before they have to do the next mission. And of course, this is time for everybody to talk strategy and blame and point fingers to who they believe is a traitor and who isn't. And Carolyn overhears Bob the Queen talking to somebody, calling her batshit crazy, right? And steering away the idea of her being a traitor because even though they think that she's batshit, nobody would ever believe that Carolyn is a traitor, which is probably the best way to go. So Even if she didn't feel like acting bad shit, she may just have to play into that because that'll keep you off everybody's radar and get you to the end of the game. So it makes sense, right? Now, Carolyn is talking to Jeremy as she heard this comment, and he tries to encourage her to not listen to people just clearly talking mess just to be talking mess. But he tells her to be careful around Danielle because he suspects that Danielle is a traitor. He done clocked her, and he says that she's been acting different. You know, she doing all this crying and stuff, and that's completely out of character for her. She's overdoing it by a lot. And so Carolyn was like, But what is she going to do? Is she going to go back to Danielle and tell her that Jeremy is looking at her or what? Now, Wes and Robin are talking, and they discuss the idea of Tony being a traitor since she figures that he's good at lying, because who wins 3 seasons of Survivor not being deceptive? Not Tony. Please, okay? He is the king of liars. So, yes, he is a traitor. Now, Wes goes back to Tony to tell him that one of the housewives threw his name out there. And, of course, Tony is pissed. He really wants people to have a different idea about his character and who he is in this game. He is not Tony from Survivor. He was doing and saying anything necessary to win the game. He's not like that anymore. He's a changed man. That's what he says. So, of course, we know that he's not a traitor, but, you know, he's trying to plead his case to everybody. So, in another part of the house, Dylan brings up Robin and Bob the Queen because Bob threw out a name, but then mysteriously backed off of it. Like, okay, you done threw my name out there, but then you just say, oh, well, it's not me. I can't be a traitor. And then you be like, oh, okay, well, you convinced me enough. You're not a traitor. To Dylan, that's suspicious. No, something just don't sound right. And Rob is here to hear it. And y'all, they done pegged 2 of the traitors already between Jeremy and Dylan. Dylan is relentless when it comes to trying to get Bob out of the house. So they pull up to the next mission. And I'm like, did they ask Ryan if they could borrow the set for Freak Show? Because what? They done pulled up to the middle of this field, y'all. And it's a whole circus theme type situation happening here. Okay, little side show. Shit, Sideshow Bob might be off in there too. So they were instructed to stand for 2 people to stand on each star, right? And so whoever they're standing on the star with, that's going to be their partner for this next mission. Now, each group was given a golden balloon, and each golden balloon is worth $2,000. And the goal is to make it through all the doors without the balloon getting popped. Now, each group has to essentially try to make it through these 5 rounds of 4 doors. One door is the only way to the next round. The other 3 are just trap doors where these maniacal killer clowns are going to come out and pop their balloons. I think they could win up to is it $15,000 for this mission? Currently they have $35,000 in the pot. So, or I think they might be able to add $20,000 to the pot. My apologies, y'all. So anyway, they're supposed to be communicating each time a group goes through a certain door, or once they get to a row, they have to describe whichever door they're finna get ready to choose, right? And so people have to remember what is being described to them in hopes that they will get it right so they won't choose that door if that's the wrong door. To go to the next room. And so yeah. Now, whichever group gets through all 5 areas without getting their balloon popped first receives a shield for the night. So they'll be safe. Now there is no order to how they go. So whoever wants to go first, that's fine. Whoever wants to go last, that's fine. Somewhere in between, that's fine too. But because people are so tired of Tony not not sacrificing himself, so to speak, for the sake of the group, Bob H picks a fight with Tony. And so Tony actually volunteers to go ahead and go first. And his partner is Nikki. Now, Nikki is pissed because she hated being in the middle of all of this. Did nobody want to go first? If we go first, then 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times, we're not going to make it to the end. Okay? So they went ahead and went. And of course, they didn't even make it past the first door. And the way that they was describing the doors, I was like, okay, did they give y'all specific instructions to describe the doors like this? Because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, why don't y'all just say room 1? We chose door number 1. If you looking from left to right, door 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the door that we chose. Clearly, if it's not door 2, then try door 1, 3, or 4, so on and so forth, right? But they were actually describing the patterns on these doors. And so it just made it all the more confusing for the other groups to try to remember which door to not pick. Yeah, it was a hot mess. So, like I said, it didn't matter no way because even though they went first, their balloon got popped. They didn't make it out of the first room. So Derek and Jeremy go next. They're also unsuccessful. Tom and some other player who I couldn't catch the picture of, they're unsuccessful. Bob and whoever his partner was, y'all, they were the 4th group. Now you would expect, because it's only 4 doors per room, you would expect the 4th group to get the right door. No. They got in there and they got all types of confused, and they ended up picking one of the doors that had already been announced as the wrong door. And so the next people to go were Rob and Dylan. They make it to the 2nd room, but of course their balloon got popped. Now, Bob the Queen and Gabby are next. They don't make it. Chriselle and Sam actually make it to the 3rd room, but then their balloon gets popped there. Robin and Danielle make it to Danielle, make it to the 4th room, but their balloon gets popped in the 4th room. Ivar and Brittany don't make it through to the 5th room. And so they're down to the last group, y'all, which was Sierra and Wes. Will they make it through 2 rooms to receive a shield for tonight? Because they're still in room 4. They have to pick the right door for this room, which they have 2 doors to pick from. Excuse me. And then they have to pick from one of 4 doors in room 5. So they made it through the 4th room and got to the 5th room, and of course they didn't make it out. So there was no money added to the pot for this challenge and no shields to be won, okay? Tough luck, y'all gonna have to try it again tomorrow. Now in the car, Bob H and Danielle's names are thrown around. So of course he goes to tell her about it, and Carolyn confirms it as well. Him being Bob the Queen. He goes to tell Danielle that her name was thrown around because, you know, him and Danielle are click tight, right? They ride or die. And Carolyn, after she asked Carolyn, did Jeremy say anything about her to her? Carolyn was like, yeah, he mentioned your name once. And I was like, girl, you weren't going to tell her at all? You weren't going to say nothing until Bob said something first. Okay. So Chriselle, Gabby, and Nikki, they have affectionately named themselves the Bambis because they all have these big eyes. Gabby's words, not mine. And so the Bambis are floating Tony's name around because of how suspicious he's been acting and the back and forth that he had with Bob H. Now, Dylan is throwing Bob the Queen around and Robin around still, and this makes Jeremy suspicious. And so he goes to tell Bob the Queen, and Bob starts snapping off to different people to garner support. This is gonna be a good roundtable, y'all. Now, roundtable was explosive. Dylan ended up trying to pin it on Bob, but other people came to his defense. Tony's name got floated around along with Bob H, but ultimately, y'all, Tony's fight wasn't good at all. His argument, yeah, no, it just didn't hold up. And so he ultimately was the one that got sent home. But he does reveal that he was a faithful before he left, and he calls Rob a sellout. And so, of course, Rob is like, I don't know why you calling me a sellout when I was the one that gave him a shield. And he never came to me and had a conversation after that at all. So I don't know why he's calling me a sellout. After roundtable, y'all, Bob the Queen comes to call a truce with Dylan because Bob realizes that, of course, he can be a little extra. And maybe Dylan is just not used to that. Okay. You're not used to all of this energy, all this fever that I got. Okay. So we good? And Dylan was like, yeah, we good for now. My bad. And Bob mentions how it took some balls for Dylan to come at him like that because he came at him and he came at him hard, y'all. So Dylan was like, you know what? For now, until I feel like I got enough people that I can trust and confidently have in my corner to vote for Bob the Queen, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to lurk in the shadows. I'm going to lurk in the bushes. And when the time is right, I'm going to say something about Bob the Queen and we're going to get him up out of here because he's a traitor. I was like, you know what, Dylan, you might win this season. We'll see. But I don't know because after episode 4, y'all, I don't know. So Alan throws the traitors a twist because they have to meet in plain sight and come up with 3 names. Now, he doesn't give a limit on, well, he says up to 2 names could be traitors. Okay. But either way, he needs 3 names to pose as victims for the next murder. Okay. So they can be called out later, the 3 names, and placed in a coffin so the traitors can come and put a literal nail in whoever they want to kill off their coffin and send them home. Now, while this may work in Bob's favor to name himself as one of the potential victims, if they choose to backstab him and kill him off, that would be the only downside to that, which would be crazy. But yeah, no, it didn't go that way. But they try to meet, and everybody, of course, is able to do so after a very long time, it seems, of sneaking around. They were finally able to get into like the little secret layer behind the bookcase. And so, y'all, Carolyn is just aimlessly walking from room to room trying to find them. And y'all, she's got on these daggone heels. And I was like, girl, take them heels off. Go switch shoes. Go do something. Because you can hear her coming a mile away. Her feet must have been really tired or something. Or she must have had on some very high heels. But either way, you can hear her. She is walking. She can't find them. And so suddenly, as they're having a conversation about who they're going to vote out, and y'all, they were even thinking about putting her name up so she could go in there, the bookcase opens. And so they have to stop talking because people had started getting suspicious, right? They were like, wait a minute, some people are missing. What's going on? It doesn't seem right. We can tell that something is happening. We just don't know what. And so people started walking around, right? So the bookcase opens, and I thought it was going to be like one of the random people, like, what y'all doing there? But no, y'all, it was Carolyn, okay? And so when she come in, Danielle was like, do you want to go as in the coffin? And she was like, hell no, I don't want to do that. So they end up floating some names, right? And they finally put the names in like this little makeshift mini coffin that's sitting on the mantle. And so they're trying to leave out without getting noticed, right? And so just around this time, because people kept coming in by the bar, the bookcase is literally in the bar room. And so people kept coming in there, and Gabby was the last one. Gabby was like, girl, I'm gonna go get some water, right? I was like, production ain't shit. So She went to go grab these two water bottles, right? And then when she was leaving out, she must have heard a noise. So she doubled back. She still didn't see anybody. So she kind of like stayed in the hallway and hung around by the bar room. And so then out of nowhere, here appears Danielle and Carolyn. And you know, they was talking like casual, trying to play it off right. And Gabby was like, what's happening here? They didn't know she was there. And so that's the way that episode ends. I was like, yeah, nah, Gabby finna be on to y'all. The way that they played that, and I'm sure it was due to a little bit of editing. And maybe the production was like, girl, is you thirsty? Your throat seem a little dry. Are you a little parched? Don't you want to go get something from the bar room? Where's the kitchen? Because y'all ain't got water bottles in the kitchen. Like I said, production knew what they was doing. So we're going to move on to episode 4. This one is titled, I Will Bury You Under the Sand. I didn't get a synopsis for this one, y'all, but this episode was so good. I can't do it enough justice, y'all. So y'all just gonna go, y'all gonna have to go back and watch episode 4. I wish that we'll get there. So we begin the episode where we left off with the last one, and that's the traitors making their list of 3 people to go into the coffins to possibly kill off one of them later, right? So they pretend to leave as if just being shown something by Carolyn, the little secret layer by Carolyn, just for Dylan to come back in a little bit later, and Danielle follows him because he's trying to snoop, right? And so he's looking around for clues, and he was like, man, you know, it just seems like something is off in this room. It feels like we're missing something. And so Danielle was like, what? And he was like, yeah, we just missed something. I was like, Dylan, cut it out. Go ahead and try to get you a casting show or something for one of these little detective shows or something, Lord. So he just missed it, right? According to him. And so Alan ends up calling everybody outside where they find these 3 coffins, surrounded by all of these little tiki torches, right? And so Alan announces the names of the 3 people that could potentially be the traitor's next victim. And the 3 people are Jeremy, Nikki, and Sierra. Now, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I was not expecting Nikki nor Sierra, but I knew that Jeremy was definitely gonna be on the chopping block. So they're keeping it real random. Now, each of them is pissed, but Jeremy knows where he went wrong, okay? He suspects Danielle, and he done told people that he suspect Danielle. So he know why he there, but according to him, before they close up the coffin, they was like, you got any last words, Jeremy? And Jeremy was like, yeah, you know, if y'all decide to let me stay, I'll agree to help y'all. I was like, you trying to be recruited, Jeremy? Now, of course, I thought that that was just a ruse just to get him to stay. And they go ahead and take out Danielle if they didn't kill him off, right? So, um, they're going to come back later. And everybody goes to bed while the traitors decide who to kill off later on that night. And either way, they win because traitors could volunteer to go in to throw everybody else off their track, so to speak. And so it's just like nonsense and constant chaos and finger pointing at this point because either way, the people are going to be suspicious of the people that went in. Whether you a traitor or not, Alan purposefully put that in there. So yeah, no, suspicion is going to be tossed around, which is great. So at breakfast, Robin voices her suspicions of Jeremy and Nikki, and Gabby tells her, Chriselle, and Dolores about what happened the previous night with the bookcase and Danielle and Carolyn just magically appearing out of nowhere, right? When she just was in there 30 seconds ago and wasn't nobody in there. Where y'all come from? And they don't believe that Danielle is a traitor. Not they, Danielle. Okay. She's been too emotional. She doesn't fit the bill for a traitor. Now, more people are starting to file in, and while they don't believe that it's 2 traitors that were in those coffins, they do believe that it was at least one that was there. And so Robin ends up bringing the secret room back into the convo, of course, so everybody else can hear it. And Danielle admits that while she and Dylan were in there, they were just kind of looking around. Bob then quickly comes to the rescue and admits that he and a few others had went in there also. So whatever Gabby thought that she had, she didn't. You thought you did, but you didn't, girl. And so she, of course, we know that she was much closer than she'll ever believe, right? So there's another knock at the door, and Nikki and Sierra come walking in, which means that Jeremy was the one that was murdered last night. They got rid of him because he had said Danielle's name, and all I'm wondering is, why is Carolyn a traitor at this point? Because when they were having this discussion, y'all, she had voiced how she didn't want Jeremy to be selected because, with Survivor, it's sort of kind of like family. And so she kind of feels like she was killing off her family. And I'm like, girl, do you want to make it to the end or not? Either way, you was going to have to kill him. Do you want to do it now? Do you want to do it later when there's more emotions and more lies that have been thrown out there, or what? And so she's upset. It just seems like every time they try to put somebody's name up there, Carolyn is like, no, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. But you was the main one talking about how much you wanted to be a traitor. You so cutthroat. You slept in a robe. Girl, what? Okay. I don't think she gonna make it to the end, y'all. So anyway, um, she's upset about the pigs, and she just seems so out of touch with the rest of them. Now, Nikki does mention that she heard at least two people come down there and put the nail in Jeremy's coffin, and now one of them had light feet. And so she's on to Danielle because Jeremy put her name out there to a few people. So Nikki got her good eye on Danielle. Now, after breakfast, they also end up floating Sierra and Nikki's names as expected because they probably was traitors too. But Tom believes that Sierra was recruited by the traitors last night, while Wes just thinks that Nikki is using her past profession as a WWE performer to put on a good show now. Which, I mean, that could happen. So Dylan still thinks that everyone is looking in the wrong direction because he still suspects Bob the Queen, but does not have enough evidence to bring it back up just yet. It's coming. For the mission, they have to reassemble these ancient stones in like 45 minutes to win 20,000 for the pot. But the catch is there are more players than there are actual statues with heads. And so whoever can get their head up the hill and onto this statue in 45 minutes will be given a shield for the night, right? So they complete the mission in what seems like the very last few seconds. And Bob 8 shares a very heartwarming and emotional story about suffering a heart attack a few years ago. And so since then, he's had to redefine who he is as a person, right? Because the type of heart attack that he had, he said that only 20% of people make it out alive. And not only that, but I'm pretty sure out of the 20%, y'all, those people have a whole bunch of complications. Some of them may not even ever get back to normal. And so he has to redefine who he is as a person after his heart attack. Because before the heart attack, he was like this top-notch trainer on The Biggest Loser. He was a really good athlete. And so this is all new for him. So to see him struggling like he was, but finally be able to get that head up there and get it on the statue so he could get a shield for the night, that was good. That was a good moment in TV. And so the other 9 players that were able to get a shield for the night were mainly men. And I didn't get to see all the names on the statues, but based off the people that didn't get their name up there, I can only assume that the following were the 9 players that did get the shields. And so those players were Tom, Bob the Queen, Wes, Chriselle, Brittany, Dylan, Dolores, Danielle, and Rob. And so the ones that are up for elimination are Sierra, Carolyn, Nikki, Ivar, Robin, Sam, Gabby, and Derek. At the end, Bob the Queen throws suspicion towards the new guys, which I don't see why he did that. It didn't make sense for him to do that, but I mean, I guess, right? It was three people. And so I don't see why Rob took so much offense to it, but because he's probably already got that stigma on him that he's, this super sadistic game player, um, or super shady game player, then he's probably one of the traitors already. So he got really pissed. This pissed him off really bad, so much to the point where when he got back to the house, he started putting stuff in place. He went to go talk to Dylan to rally the troops, y'all. And so he wanted to use them as puppets to blindside Bob the Queen at the round table because he didn't want to. He didn't want to at first. Because he's a traitor. He's not supposed to be betraying a traitor. That's part of the code book. You breaking traitor code. So at the round table, y'all, like I said, y'all will have to go back and watch the episode because it was a really good round table. It was a lot going on. It was very uncomfortable for Bob the Queen. Sort of kind of like when Phaedra went down, right? So at the round table, Wes throws out Nikki. Derek throws out Sierra. Um, because he said something about her in her potty mouth about how she's not even killed most of the time. So like when she's suspicious, of course she gets upset. She doesn't know how to um she doesn't know how to properly express her emotions without cussing. And so he sees that as a sign of guilt, right? Or a suspicion. So Derek throws out Sierra. Rob interrupts Sierra's defense and throws all of the suspicion towards Bob, the drag queen. And so Rob not only doubles down on his suspicions of Bob the Queen, but now he's got Dylan speaking up and backing him. And so Dylan was like, girl, I already thought that you was a traitor from the get-go. I just didn't have enough evidence. But seeing how you just sat up here and you tried to say that Rob was a traitor just because he called you out for being a traitor, yeah, no, that's hella suspicious. It was a really good round table, y'all. And I was like, wow. Yeah, this was probably one of the better ones. And so I was like, is Rob really finna gather enough people to vote Bob the Queen out? Now, prior to the round table, he had talked to Danielle and Carolyn, and Danielle was like, I'm not voting on him. I'm not doing that. And he was like, you're doing it. You're doing it tonight. You're doing it now. And Carolyn was like, it's too early. And Danielle was supposed to be Bob the Queen's ride or die. And so she was really upset and conflicted about what she was going to do at this round table. But y'all, Rob ain't even been there for 3 whole days. And he done managed to backstab Bob, the drag queen, because Bob got voted out. Danielle voted for him. She was upset. He was upset because, she had betrayed her friend when she didn't have to. She could have did a throwaway vote. She did not have to vote for him. But of course, she doesn't want to put suspicion on herself, so she's going to vote with the group, right? I would have just probably did a throwaway vote. I would have did Nikki. Well, you know what? Nikki is already looking at Danielle. I would have did Sierra. I would have did somebody else. I wouldn't have did my friend. I would not have done my friend. So, yeah. So he got voted out. And of course, Bob was putting on a show, y'all. He was like, I swear to God, I am not a traitor. And so when they called him to reveal if he was a traitor or faithful, he was like, yeah, I told y'all, I swore to God. And he was like, yeah, I swear to God, but I don't believe in him. I'm a traitor, y'all. And so, of course, everybody was elated. They were happy. People were jumping up and down. They were hugging Rob because here comes Rob. He's our savior. Man, I'm so glad you spoke up. This, that, and the third. And so, of course, everybody hails Rob as this hero, right? Because he's the traitor whisperer. Oh, shoot, y'all. So now, of course, because Rob was the one that sought out a traitor, even though he broke the traitor code of conduct, now everybody is going to never suspect him. He can be a traitor, right? Because who would do that? Dan did. He got ate up. Phaedra and Poverty demolished the table. And um, so of course everybody's ecstatic that they got this traitor out. Nobody is more happy than Dylan. Dylan was like, man, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you spoke up. Thank you so much for having enough faith in me and trusting me. And all the while, Rob is like, you know what? I think I'm gonna be able to carry this dummy bummy to the to the end, and then I'm just gonna murder him off. Now, in one of the other rooms, Wes, Ivar, I think maybe Robin are having a conversation, or it might have been Brittany. I can't remember who it was. Maybe Chriselle. One of the girls having a conversation, and Wes was like, man, you know what? That was epic. That was really good, but I will say it is kind of suspicious at the fact that Rob was so adamant that Bob was a traitor. How could you be so adamant and not have a shred of doubt that somebody is a traitor unless you're a traitor? It was Wes, Ivar, Tom, and I think one of the girls. I can't remember the girl that was there. And so he was like, yeah, he knew that Bob the Queen was a traitor because he's one too. And so, of course, Danielle is pissed and she vows to get Rob back when he least sees it coming. And that's the way the episode ends, y'all. It was a really good episode. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? I'm kind of curious as to what's going to happen with Rob now and how Dylan is going to feel about this. How long y'all think it's going to take before Rob get up out of there? Y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? You can reach me at Me and You TV Reviews on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also reach me at My TV Reviews Podcast without the S on the end at gmail.com. I love y'all. Y'all stay safe out there. Y'all have a wonderful start to your week. And that's all I have for now. So until we meet over the airwaves again, y'all, I am Mo, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.